Timer on the screen. Okay, so Jonathan, where are you driving to? Good to see you up and at him. I think your audio is off. You can turn your audio on. Don't, while you're driving, don't. That's okay. Keep on driving. Don't worry. I can handle it. All right. Where are we headed, Jonathan? Okay. So we were learning about the various items that were placed in the room of Elisha. And again, it's not about Elisha, it's about ourselves, about what we need to put into ourselves in order to have the goodness in ourselves to be powerful and dominant and active and vibrant and us. So last week we learned about the chair and about the bed and about the table. The bed means our Kriya Shema Shalamita, our Cheshbon Nefesh, our determination the night before to do good the next day and to not do the wrong things the next day. That's the bed. That's the beginning of the day. The table means the way we set ourselves up towards, in Psukkah de Zimra, in the verses of praise, where we're able to actually change what we want in life. We're able to go deep into ourselves and decide where we want to get to in life. That's what is happening in Psukkah de Zimra. When a Jew says those words of song and he really sings them, the effect is that your desire is different. You want different things. Your table is set for the right things. So depending on what your table is set for, that's a narrative of how you view things in the world. Do you see what's good as good and what's bad as bad, or do you see what's bad as good and what's good as bad? It has to do what kind of table you have. Your table means your power of desire. What causes us to desire the right things or the wrong things? It's Psukkah de Zimra. Those verses of praise have the power to channel our power of desire that day. That's why we do this every single day. Then we started talking about the chair. The chair is Kriya Shema, saying Shema in davening. And we learned that in Kriya Shema, we talk about Yisrael. Yisrael has two components. Aleph Lamed is the two parts of the godly soul. Lamed is numerical equivalent to 30, and that is the lower spheres of the godly soul. Netzach, the power of obedience, the power of doing what Hashem wants us to do. And the way those three spheres, the way those three energies are each comprised of 10 respectively, meaning how our power of obedience isn't just obedience, dry obedience, but that there is some feeling there. And especially the Aleph in that word Yisrael indicates that there is intellect, godly intellect, the Chochmah, the wisdom, the reason why there is that obedience. The Naseh v'Nishma isn't just dry, as the previous Rebbe said, that when the Hasidim stood at the foot of Mount Sinai, they didn't just say we will do and then we will understand. They said we'll derher. We're going to feel what we're doing. So the Aleph of Yisrael is the godly wisdom, and the Lamed is the power of obedience. So our performance of Torah isn't just dry, just we're doing it, but there's a derher in it. We feel this is what our life is about. That's one of the words we say in the morning, Shema Yisrael. So we haven't really explained the whole idea of Shema Yisrael yet, but all we know so far is that the meaning of Shema Yisrael is how a Jew feels that our whole life and strength is Hashem Echad. A Jew feels a Yid as their hair, that Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, that Hashem is our life and strength, and Hashem is one. So, continuing on this theme, we're going to figure now out, God willing, the other part of the word Yisrael. The word Yisrael has two parts. But Kael, Aleph Lamed is the second part of the word Yisrael. The first part of that word is Yashar. Yashar means straight. What does it mean to be straight? We're now on, you can see over here, I have the cursor on the word we're starting from. So the godly soul is called Aleph Lamed. Those two letters are the intellect and the feelings of the godly soul, respectively. The Aleph is the intellect, and the Lamed are the emotions. Yashar Kael, Yaved Elokis Kameshu Apia Teira. Apia Kavanah Yena Betachas Bris is how it sounds. What's Yashar Kael mean? That means that the Jew is serving Hashem according to Torah, according to what God's intent is in creation. He is doing things right. As a Yashar Kael, he has an neshama, and he is doing what Hashem wants him to do. The Niksiv, Avad Re'ezem Matsasi Yashar Osa El Kimasadam Yashar Behayim Biksha Chashvenis Rabbi. It says in the pasuk, Hashem made a person to be straight, but they asked, they requested, they wanted all kinds of calculations. Why don't you come upstairs? I can see some human being over here. Come on, brother. You can do kabbanis here too. Don't worry.
I'm not at shul.
Oh, look at the shul bookcase.
I know my bookcase is pretty nice.
Yeah. So Hashem made a person to be straight, but they wanted all kinds of calculations. What does that mean? Hashem made a person to be straight. Who is the person? The person is referring to Neshama. The animal soul is called an animal. The godly soul is called man. Also, as the next page is Adam Yashar. What does it mean that God made man to be straight? The nefshel is behetzim madrigas Yashar. That a godly soul is at the level of straight. What is straight? To do what is just and straight in the eyes of God. That's how Hashem made the neshama. Hashem made the neshama to just do the right thing. To do what is correct, to do ter mitzvahs. Elsewhere, Chassidus says the word Yashar is about the straight flow from heaven to earth. That a mitzvah causes a equality between heaven and earth, so that they're the same. It's a Yashar, it's straight. That's what the neshama is here for. I heard an incredible story this morning. Rabbi Shabtai Savatitsky said that in his synagogue there was Simchas Torah, and like every shul in Simchas Torah, they cleared the shul out. Everyone's dancing. This guy comes into the shul, long hair, and they invite him into the circle, and they dance. And Rabbi Savatitsky asks him to make a decision on Simchas Torah to continue the joy and to learn Torah after Simchas Torah with him. The guy accepts, and they begin a Torah class together. And it's developing very nicely. The guy is really getting into it. And they're studying whatever subject it is, and parenthetically, out of nowhere, there's just happens to be a little side note, and the side note of whatever they're studying was how a convert is forbidden to marry a Kohen. The guy turned white like a ghost. He said to Rabbi Savatitsky, listen, he was a lawyer, very successful lawyer, and he was invited to America to do some case, and he met someone there who was Orthodox, and they hit it off, but she was religious. So she said, if you would be religious like me, this could work. That's why he came to the synagogue on Simchas Torah. That's why he agreed to study the Torah. That's why everything was developing. And now, what does he do now? So they talked about it, and of course, it's not an easy pill to swallow. So Rabbi Savatitsky told him, why don't you write a letter to the Rebbe? He wrote a letter to the Rebbe. it's not something that you could really absorb just by me saying it to you and you're hearing it. You have to think about what the Rebbe said. It's very in sync to what we're learning over here. Torah mitzvahs is who we are. That's our straight path. That's how Hashem built us. Torah mitzvahs is Yashar Kel. What is a Jew? Yashar Kel. He's bringing Hashem to the world through Torah mitzvahs, revealing Hashem in this world. That's his straight natural path. This is what the Rebbe told him. The Rebbe said, it says in the Torah that 40 days before a child is born, God already announces that this woman should marry this man. So the Rebbe said, if you were meant to marry her, if she was your true soulmate, then God would have made you be born as a non-Kohen, or made her be born as a Jew. The fact that you were born as a Kohen and she was born as a Jew, that indicates that she isn't your soulmate. It indicates that this is not who you need to be connected to. That's what the Rebbe said. In other words, there is a plan that Hashem has for you, and the plan is in sync with the plan is the Torah. The Torah's commandments are your plan. That's your yashar, that's your straight, that's your natural, that's who you are. We have all kinds of calculations. The guy listening, the guy was so overwhelmed, he stood up. When the letter came from the Rebbe, they studied it together. He burst out crying, and he got up and he hugged Rabbi Savatitsky, and he let go. And he married someone else, Baruch Hashem, and he's now a grandfather of many wonderful people, among them many shluchim. This is a Jew who decided to be yashar, to go straight in the path of Torah. And it wasn't an easy thing, but it was his path. It was who he was. He wasn't leaving what was good for him for the sake of God. He went to do what Hashem wanted him to do because that's what's good for him. If Hashem wanted something different, he would have made him different. It doesn't sound like a Romeo and Juliet kind of story. It doesn't sound like there's a romance there. It doesn't sound, but this is Yashar. This is the yellow brick road. This is how Hashem built us. Hashem built an neshama for the straight path of Torah mitzvahs. However, what does it say in the next line? They wanted to make all kinds of calculations. When there becomes a two, when there comes a duality, the soul indeed is straight, but God makes us to be a duality. When the soul descends into a body, when the godly soul becomes vested within the animal soul, and now there's not just one, now there's two. Then there are all kinds of calculations we make, all kinds of thoughts we have, all kinds of different, strange goals and thoughts and dreams that we have. That means that our soul becomes scattered with all kinds of thoughts that disturb us and confuse us and dissuade us from serving God and to say and do things which aren't for God. When there becomes a hemum, when it becomes a they, when the soul stops being an I and becomes a they, that's where all the confusion comes from. And this is what we do when we say Shema Yisrael. What are we doing? Shema means to gather. As a pasuk says, Shaul gathered the people. The Torah uses the word Shema to refer to Shaul's gathering. When the Torah says that Shaul gathers the people, it says Vayishama. So the word Shema means to gather. And so too, when every Jew recites Shema, what are they doing? We're trying to gather together all of our thoughts and all of our words and all of our actions, to be straight. Who are you day? And how do we get to this? How do we get to gather all of our thoughts, words, and actions to be straight? You know what Rebbe is saying over here? This is by meditating in Hashem as our God, that Hashem is the source of creation. Havaya Elokeinu Chochmah and Bina are these divine spheres which are the source of creation. A few months ago, it was a month ago, Sukkot. I went with my family to Santa Monica to go biking, and there's Perry's Cafe on the beach, and there's some Jews there, Hollywoodish kind of Yidden, older Jews. I put on film with them, and one of them was really touched by the putting on film. If I remember correctly, he made is a producer of more I don't want to say the name of the movie, whatever, it's not important. And I think it was Spaceballs. Anyways, so he said that he wants to stay in touch. Okay. So he messaged me, I messaged him, I messaged him. Unfortunately, he died yesterday. And his wife said, you have no idea what kind of connection was made about that day. You don't know how much he spoke about that. You don't know what that meant to him, that film that day. We never ended up meeting again, but there was something in him that was kindled there. We think, Torah and mitzvahs are things that we do. We're brought up with it. This guy hadn't put on film since probably a mitzvah. I don't know how old he was. And when he got connected to it again, this Yasher, this is who he is. This is straight. This is who he is. That's what we're supposed to when we say Shema. When we say Shema, it's supposed to be like, where am I? Where am I going? What's it all about? And this is not just for him. This is for each of us. If I would have realized, this was his last few weeks in the world, you think it would have been text messaging back and forth? You think we wouldn't have met? We have to realize who we are and where we're going. Havaya Echad. There's one God in the world, and that we're here for a reason, and we have to stick onto the Yelbik road. Okay. And this is the meaning of the words Hashem is one, and all of creation is only a tiny ray of godliness. All of creation is only an insignificant energy compared to Hashem's essence, compared to Hashem's infinity. When we say God is one, it doesn't just mean that there's one superpower. It also doesn't just mean that there's one existence. Havaya Echad means that in the seven heavens, the four directions, all there is Hashem. Zev has already Googled Spaceballs and discovered the name of the guy who's Zev, we missed you, Shabbos. L'chaim. The meaning of Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, that we say Hashem is one, doesn't just mean Hashem is the only existence. That the seven heavens, the four directions are all part of Hashem. It also means that all of existence is insignificant to Hashem. It's not like there's some important reality outside of godliness. All of creation, Hashem isn't changed by creation. Hashem isn't changed by creation. It's all a tiny bit of energy of Hashem that causes all of creation. The Krishma Kisei, and that's why Krishma is called the chair. Showcase Aleph, the Kois base Kibbul. Wow. The case Aleph, look at that beautiful, gorgeous baby over there. The case Aleph, she has Seichel, Ki Skabo, Seichel Nushi, as Agila Seichel, Ki Bechon Yonov, Achan Agaisa, Bechon Yonov, Yapi Seichel, Ki. Case Aleph means to receive the Aleph. When you're saying Shema, you know what you're trying to do? You're trying to absorb the Aleph. There is the Aleph. What's the Aleph mean? The Aleph means the truth of Hashem. And Case Aleph means you want that Hashem's truth should permeate you. You want that you should think that way. Case Aleph, that all of your, whatever you're doing, all of your behavior should all be based on godly wisdom, the truth of Hashem. There's a whole organism over here of a person, all kinds of calculations. But then there is the Aleph. Hashem, the Aleph is the letter of light that represents the truth of Hashem's wisdom. So Shema is the chair. The word chair means Case Aleph, the receptacle for the Aleph. When we say Shema, we're supposed to stop everything we're doing and think about the emes, think about the truth. The Mittler Rebbe wrote a sefer called Sha'arei Emunah V'Yichud. In that sefer, he has a beautiful introduction about why he wrote this book about the oneness of Hashem. And he says a line there that just like the Talmud says, if someone doesn't put on tefillin one time, they're called Poishe Yisrael Begufam. They're in the category of the sinners of Israel with their bodies. He says if someone doesn't meditate about the oneness of Hashem and Shema, they're Poishe Yisrael Nishmasan. They are, for the sinners of Israel, they're sinning with their souls. Because he says, thinking about the oneness of Hashem is the key to all the performance of all Torah mitzvahs. That's what it's all about. So Shema Yisrael isn't just a moment of the day that we are saying Shema Yisrael. It's the time when we become receptive to the true wisdom of Hashem. We're able to think about honestly and truly Hashem Echad. V'hinei, now let's go to the last part of the items that were put into Elisha's room, the menorah. V'hinei menorah Shmona Esrei, the candelabra Shmona Esrei. Any questions about the chair before we get to Shmona Esrei?
What was the key? You said case Aleph?
Yeah, case Aleph. The chair, the receptacle of the Aleph, of the wisdom of Chachma, the wisdom of the godly soul. In Shema, we're trying to receive the God, to think the way the godly soul thinks, to think about the oneness of Hashem, to gather our whole self together, and all of our thoughts and words and actions are scattered throughout the day, through our lives, and all kinds of stuff, and realize what's behind it all. Where does it all come from? It's like a Shabbos-tic moment. It's like Shabbos.
Isn't that what you're thinking about in Shema itself? That everything is one from Hashem?
Yeah, that's what Shema is. Right.
So Shema is the chair.
Shema is the chair. Shema is the chair. As we gather it all together, gathering everything together. V'hinei menorah Shmona Esrei. Menorah is Shmona Esrei. Shmona Esrei, it says the moment. Shmona Esrei is a prayer we say when we're standing. The Kriya Shema says the Miyushav. Contrasted to Shema, which is a prayer we say when we are sitting. Shmona Esrei, it says the Mumad. You know what's the difference between whether you're standing or sitting? Why are we saying that the definition of Shmona Esrei is a prayer that you're saying when you're standing? Kriya Shema is Kriya Shema is meditating about godliness in a way that you can understand it. That's the meaning of Shema. Shema means to understand and comprehend. As a pasuk says, speak, because your servant is listening. Doesn't just mean he's listening. It means he is plugged in and understanding what you're saying. So Shema is about Bina. Shema is about understanding the truth of Hashem. That means understanding deeply the greatness and exaltedness of the infinite one, blessed be he. And through this, you arrive to an excitement in your heart with love and reverence for Hashem. That's what Shema is about. You think about Hashem's greatness to trigger, to unlock your feelings in your heart for Hashem. That's what Shema is about. Every excitement is a good thing. There's excitement. On the other hand, excitement is a feeling. There's a feeling of self over there. Shemona Esrei, it says the Shemona Esrei is a prayer you say when you're standing. The idea of standing is bittul metzias, that there's no self there at all. Shemona Esrei is not about how you feel. Shemona Esrei is about how you're lost in the experience. That says in the Torah of Achara Eish Koil D'Mamadaka. Torah says after the fire there will be a soft voice. The Torah is discussing the revelation of Hashem and what that the various events happen to the prophet before there is a revelation of Hashem. After the wind, there will be fire. After the fire, there will be a soft voice. So the wind is Psukkah de Zimra, the fire is Shema, and after the fire, there is a soft voice is Shemona Esrei. What happened to that prophet in Revelation, that's what happens to us every day on Shemona Esrei. The soft voice. After the fire of Shema comes a soft voice. The fire is the yearning of Shema, where a Jew is meant to bring his heart to a state of to be inflamed with a great storm. But he still has a sense of self. And therefore there's a whole storm over there. The Ima is about if he would have lost himself in the experience, there would be no storm. For example, when you burn a tree in fire, in the coals, as long as the tree has not completely been burned, as long as the wood is still there, the fire is a storm. There's a whole world in that fire. But once the entire tree has been burned, then there's no storm at all. That's when it's the hottest. It's the hottest after the tree has been completely burnt. So too can we understand in our fiery yearning for Hashem and Shema, the fact that there's still such a great excitement, that indicates that there's someone there. There is someone who has that love. And the love is with a great feeling and excitement. But Shemona Esrei is a soft voice. You're standing in front of the king, and there's no sense of self at all. I want to point out that in Eitz HaChaim, which, by the way, the Rebbe Rashab published this Eitz HaChaim, many other booklets to address various needs of the Chassidim, and many people thought that this was something that was meant for Chassidim of yesteryear. Our Chassidim of our generation are no longer relevant to appreciate these truths. But the last Chav Cheshvan that the Rebbe distributed something, Leisata, the Rebbe distributed the Eitz HaChaim. And in the Eitz HaChaim, the Rebbe Rashab makes a contrast between Shema and Shemona Esrei. Beautiful parable. A child hasn't seen his father in many years. And then he sees his father at a distance. And when he sees his father at a distance, he screams out, "Dad, Dad, Dad." And his heart is full of a fiery love for his father. And he and his father run to each other. And then they finally reach each other and they embrace. When they embrace, he doesn't say father anymore. He can't say father anymore because he's become he's lost already. When he's at a distance, he still feels himself, he still feels the yearning. But when he's there face to face with his father, there's no sense of self anymore. In a similar way, Shema is where a Jew feels the Eibishter, it feels the yearning for the Eibishter. There's a fiery love there. But once he's in Shemona Esrei, the tree has already been burnt up with love. So it's like love, it's called in Kabbalah love like water. There's love there. But there's a greater love in Shemona Esrei than there is in Shema. There's a greater love. But the love isn't a sense of self anymore. It's where a Jew is enveloped by the love and he begins Shemona Esrei with the words, Hashem, please open my lips. You have to ask Hashem to open your lips because you don't have a sense of self anymore. In Shema, there's a sense of self, and therefore you could say, Hashem, you could talk. How much you love, how much you feel. But Shemona Esrei is, you lost it all. There's no sense of self. And this is the candelabra. That was the Neirei Shemona Esrei. Why is Neirei Shemona Esrei? Which we're going to get to tomorrow. But the point so far is we learned today is that why Shema is called the chair. It's a time we become a receptacle for godly wisdom. We think about the truth in Shema. And Shemona Esrei is the candelabra. Shemona Esrei is we stand before the king. There's no sense of fiery love anymore. The tree has been burnt already, and we're there face to face with the king. Any questions, comments, or criticism?
What was the table again?
Table is Psukkah de Zimra. Psukkah de Zimra
preparation.
And Birkas
preparation.
Krishna. Yeah, preparation for Shema. So the tables is the verses of praise, where during the verses of praise we learned at length on Friday how during that time of Psukkah de Zimra you're able to channel your power of desire, you're able to change what you want. And when you want different things, then you see the world differently. We were discussing an amazing thing that I can't get over. It seems like Yetzer Tov Yetzer Hara, the various ways we paint the world, has to do with our power of desire. So we're able to change what we want in a Psukkah de Zimra. We're able to change our power of desire. That's the table. We're able to we set our table up for what we want in the world. All right. Have a great day, Yonatan. Great day, Rebbe. Great day, Rebbe. Great day, Reb Zev.